Hello everyone, this is Brigette from Brigette's Cottage in Charleston in the Adelaide Hills. Happy New Year to you all. I thought I'd just share with you where we're at with our dahlia journey. We've done it differently this time up the back in the raised bed. We call this our prime real estate bed because it gets really good sun aspect. Last year what we did, I've got this on more of a zoom angle and I will change it in a minute, but last year we had a row along near the fence, in the middle and here, and then a short one along the fence line. And that got us in quite a few dahlias, but we actually didn't get, I don't think, as efficient growing as what we're going to get this year. So this year we've gone with the widthwise across, and I'm going to change the angle now so you can see it just on normal view. So we've given ourselves 9 rows that are crossways in the actual bed. They're all going to capture the sun, and I've got gladdies planted all the way along here, and Terry's also increased the height of this area so that we can grow sweet peas. It's very exciting actually. I mean, this could become a veggie bed or the dahlia bed, whatever. The infrastructure is just brilliant. I'm really happy with it. So this is I'll just take you outside so you can see. We've got like three layers of permapine there, so it's actually raised up all the way through because dahlias can't cope with getting wet feet. In fact, we've had such excessive rain over from basically we started planting them in November, December, and they've had excessive rain. We thought we'd sort of missed that side of the weather, but you can't really do much about that, can you? So I've got some here that like this, I've coated them, I call them their name. I have 2 varieties of this one called Seagull, so this is called Seagull number 2, which makes me laugh actually. And there is a dahlia under there, but it hasn't been really successful in shooting, not when you compare it to the ones that are growing all around us. So the other thing we did, which I think it was a lot of fun, was we had a family draw. So we've got the boys and their girlfriends and a couple of our friends to pick random numbers. I had about 230 varieties. Some of them were ones that we already had from last year. Some were new ones. There was a lot that was new ones. And I couldn't work out what I was going to dedicate into this bed. We've worked out we can get about 100 in this bed, which is more than what we got last year. So planting space-wise, we've gone a bit closer, and we've also got more varieties. So, for example, this row here, this is Brooke's row, which is Daniel's girlfriend, and Brooke just picked her numbers randomly. She didn't know what they were, what they corresponded to. For example, she's picked a real beauty here. This is number 39 for us is Carlos watermelon. Now, Carlos watermelon, I think, has to be one of my top 5 dahlias. Like, it's just exceptional beauty. And so she picked her numbers, and then I put them into her bed, and this row has been called B1, and then this one is Daniel's row, so it's D2. And then what I've done is, so you can see that the strike rate on his hasn't been as good. So I have gone through, checked the dahlias, and they did have some shoots, so I'm hoping, or they look like they might be viable, so I've left them in a little bit longer. And sadly, if these ones don't come up, I'll pull them up and I'll just put something else in there, and we may have the same variety somewhere else in the garden that I can put in there. Otherwise, I'll just have to give him a new allocation. But we've also got using our trampoline springs, some wire and some irrigation pipe that we had, so that the dahlias aren't going to be damaged. So one thing I found on this row that goes all along the edge is that they were hitting the wire, so that can damage the flowers. So now we're going to be able to basically lean the ones in this row, there's one each side of this, they'll be able to lean in towards this, and the flowers aren't going to be rubbing on the fence as much. So we think that the cover over the wire should work. So yes, there's a sheep having a little bit of a bar in the background. So yes, this one hasn't had a great success rate. This one is Gary's row, and he's got some coming up, but then there's some little ones here that haven't been 100% successful. except, look, there we go. Oh, I don't know if that's, no, it's not. I come out here and I keep checking them. I'm hand watering at the moment because I don't want to, this became really boggy, and, you know, that's why they ended up being damaged. The other thing is they've all been labelled, they've all been coded, and I've written on the actual tuber, and then the birds come along. This is Ron's Beauty, this is my row, and they, actually the white stands out better on this. These are labels made out of old blinds, actually, so they're metal, and that's like a paint pen. I've labelled it with another type of lasting pen on the back, but the white actually works really well. So that's a good hint if you've got the dark blinds. So this one here, see how the birds kicked it out? It's okay, because what I've done is I've called this section B4, and then it goes B4 dot number 1, and then B4 dot number 2, and I've basically mapped out what's in what location, so that if anything happens I can ID the bulbs. It's pretty important if I want to sell the bulbs to be able to identify them, I think. So this one's Kate's row. She's going really well, and Jesse has got a really good row as well. Really good strike rate. He's got one here at the front which hasn't come up yet. This one is, whose row is this? I don't know. It goes Brooke, Daniel, Gary, Brigette, Kate, Jessie. This one must be Terry's. This is Terry's row, T7. So she picked out some here, and she's had a pretty good strike rate, but I have removed some. So if there's no labels, I've removed them. And then this is our friend Susie's row, so S8. So as you can see, I've removed 2 that were in here, and there's a couple that haven't come up, but pretty good. And then this is just my section of stock standard that I want to keep. The Cafe au Laits, Carlos Watermelon, a couple of new ones that I've got. This bed is quite protected because we've got the shed there now, so hoping that this will do well. It's a bit of extra wind protection. But yeah, they're looking pretty good, aren't they? So I've rambled on enough here. I've got the Gladdies in, all different types of Gladdies, got them labelled as well. As they start to flower, I will label them a bit better. And then the ones in the pots are the other way that we're doing the Dahlias. So I've got about 100 pots, 120 pots, 120 plants in the ground, 120 plants in pots. So the big ones are ones for keeping, and I will be able to stake them to the wire. Hopefully we don't have any damage with the wire. And then these ones here at the front are ones that I'm actually selling. So like, you know, that's Sugartown Sunrise. They're actually really nice quality plants. A lot of people lost their plants, tubers, due to rot. So what I've done in this instance is, because we have been very unpredictable in the weather, I've got it that, like, you know, you water them more once they start to shoot. Like this one here hasn't really come up yet, but once they've started to come up, you can water them. I've also put them on old trays so that the water is going to go out. Some of the pots I lost because they were sitting straight on the ground and the water wasn't running away from them. So it's quite clay based on the ground here. So we've raised up the pots there, but the ones that are in the big pots, I've put, with Terry, we've drilled holes in the bottom. We've put some concrete at the bottom, some big like logs, and then we've put a bit of wood chip, and then we've put the soil. So the soil takes up, I'll just show you in this pot here. So the holes come to the very ridge so that there will be no water logging, and then underneath as well. And then it's to about here, we've got the solid drainage area, and then we've got a good amount of soil. And then here, the soil settled down, the dahlias started to take up some of the nutrients in it, and we will actually top that up with some alpaca poo, cow poo, worm hit, and eventually I will put some pea straw on to mulch them and protect the base from the heat. But I don't do that until they're really strong plants. These plants are ready to be also nipped out, so I'm going to probably nip from here so that we will produce extra branches, and it will, otherwise it will just produce one really thick stem to a flower. So we're going to encourage extra production of stems, extra production of flowers, and it looks like a pity to have to cut that, but that's okay because I can also take cuttings from the plant, the tip, and I can actually create new plants with that to increase my stock and flowers. So yeah, pretty exciting. So I'll show you from this level. Well, we've got the trailer rack there just for now, but you can just see what's going on there. So that's how it looks at the moment. That's with those. And then if I turn around here, crizzy bed, another perennial bed in there, and annuals. But here we've got the sweet pea arbor, and that's, you know, waiting really for, there's nothing really happening in the actual sweet pea planter box. We have got a couple of sweet peas that may take, but round here either side I've got, there's I think 9 on one side and 8 on the other, but I can basically walk through here. I'll be able to pick the dahlias. They're getting beautiful full sun. They've got a bit of an overflow of the achillea, the Shasta daisies, there's lavender, a bit of comfrey, and then here we'll have one stake that'll go in here, which will come across to this arbor to support these ones, and then these ones that are all going along here, I'll come back this way, these ones will just have a stake just here at the end and do the string line, and these are not going to be a permanent situation. The pots, we can move them anywhere. So if I go back a bit, you'll see how that should look really pretty and experiential as we walk through the arbor, especially if there's sweet peas growing over, and if there's or any sort of plant growing over. It could be veggies, whatever, but the dahlias either side, it's just, yeah, it's really pretty. So I've got them, and then I've got some other ones that are also, I've got a few in this bed here, and these ones we're actually, I'll come around here. I've been working with the chrysanthemums lately too, and getting some support side of things worked out in here. But these ones here, we've had pretty good strike rate with most of ours, but I've got an overflow of some that I'm wondering what's going on with them. Whether I remove the tubers, they may have had too much water, they've rotted on the neck and the collar part of the tuber, and they've created what's called a blind tuber. There's no eyes created, they will not be able to grow. Whereas these ones have been a viable tuber that have actually produced the eyes, got the shoots and the stems up, and they're on their way. But we may have lost, I'd say, 20% due to excessive rain. Although I've tried everything I could to make it work, it was just constant rain. Like, you can't, you know, once the ground's wet underneath and the flow off and all of that, you know, there's going to be, you take I suppose you invest in more and you will have more losses. But it's pretty, in general, pretty good. And then I have another area over here. So this has been put up as well for putting up sweet peas. And over here near my raised bed, near the greenhouse, I've got my hospital bay. So these I'm not expecting to come up, but I'm just giving them the best chance possible. And I also have a couple around here, which I checked and they did have sprouts, but whether they'll come up or not, I'm not sure. So yeah, that's where I'm at, and I've got a few that need to go into the ground to merge them in with the garden. I'll just take you and show you one of them that's come up in the garden that was already planted on a mound area of the garden, on what we call the first driveway bed, which is this one here. Gets a bit of shade on this side and it gets the full sun on the other side. But the dahlias are planted in at the top of that mound, and this is called Florally Sea Star. This is my first one that's come out and flowered. There's one that's a little bit older, and there's one that's going right off. I've still got some poppies coming up, and penstemon, feverfew. We've got all sorts going on here. The achillea is just beautiful, and there's one more dahlia in there that I will show you. See, there's one One's coming up here. The calla lilies were just magnificent. Here's another dahlia that's coming up that I planted. I've planted another one. So I've planted them all around this raised area. And this one's just like an anemone or single petals. That one's lost a petal with the weather. But it is very pretty. These aren't as good for cutting, but the Florally Sea Star is. And I'm going to learn a lot about dahlias because this is only my second year. So I can't act like I know everything yet because I don't. I'm going to make mistakes and I'm going to make some wins. So the only other place I can show you is out the front. So what I'll do is I'll pause this, I'll take you out the front and I'll show you what I'm going to do out there. Well, we may as well just have a look at this section here. It's really going well. Now this garden is in its third year now, and it's really starting to come into its own. Big tall Jerusalem artichokes growing up there. Yeah, we've got butterflies and goldenrod there. The sunshine garden is looking pretty nice, and we've got a whole heap of sorting out to do down there, but we're getting there slowly. So we've got 6 people living in the house now, so we've got lots of cars happening. Tree lucens have grown tall, elderberries have grown tall, so I can actually trim those lucerne trees down a bit. And sunflowers are looking glorious. They've given us a real screen of privacy, and I did a beautiful, fun photo shoot with 2 young girls the other day, and we set it up here, and just gorgeous, like really pretty, like the cosmos and the princess lilies. And I just want to show you my one favourite sunflower. Look at that. It's a lilac. Look at the colours. I mean, it's just beautiful. So there's a few different varieties of sunflowers in here. So we may get some cross-pollination, and at the moment I've just left it to go tall to create that visual protection and privacy of the garden, because you can see to the other side, which gets more shade, that hasn't got that protection, hasn't got the screening ability, but we're going to try and put a few in there. All right, I'll pause you and I'll take you down. Well, we'll just walk down there. It's a bit messy, sorry, walking past the cars. But we had some sunflowers that I planted all the way along this area. So this is the area that people walk around to my salon. I have culled out calendulas in here, sprinkled some seeds. We've had cockies coming in and damaging things, wind damage. But these were magnificent. So I don't even know if I've got the video in this angle to show you, but I might have a photo I can put on at the end. But basically I've let these were for the cockies because that's our kitchen window, and we really loved the view of watching the rosellas bouncing up and down on these sunflowers. It was gorgeous. And then in the bottom here I've got dahlias planted, so I've put them in all the way along, and they've been trimmed back because remember I talked about the trimming back before, so they've been trimmed back. We leave them to scar over before we water them. You never trim them back and water them straight away. And then there's 2 stems forming here, and that's going to be a much stronger dahlia now. They're all labelled up, and they go all the way along here because we've got terrific sun aspect here. So the sunflowers, you can see the parrots have eaten, well, all off of that one, nearly all off of that one. And what I've been doing is I've just been cutting them at about I might actually have cut this one too short. This one was actually sort of like half my height. I think when I cut this one, I'll cut it up higher, maybe my shoulder height. And my plan is that I will actually have an organic stem, a stake, to support the dahlias. So this one has been whacked by the hose, and when you get a sunflower that's, there's the toilet rolls. There's the toilet rolls they were planted in. Look at that. That's what they were all planted in to start off, and they were all so tiny. And look, there's a beautiful worm crawling out. It's a very happy garden bed here. But those single sunflowers will only give you the one sunflower. So when this is done, I don't feel guilty about cutting it because it wasn't going to grow anymore. and some varieties of sunflowers are perennial, or multiple bracts, but this one was a single flower only. So there's a little bit more seed left on there for the birds. And then what I do is I just strip off the leaves. That goes in the compost. And then this will get cut. And we may have some support for this lovely dahlia here. So it looks a bit messy at the moment, but I really don't care. I think it's going to look pretty interesting, and it'll be really good to see if this works as a structure to support a dahlia, because then we've got a real companionship going. So yeah, that's my front garden. So this is a area that's had masses of colour, and we've just taken it out. So I'm going to put some more seeds in there. So that's it, pretty much done. So I'll say see you, okay? And I just hope you all have a good day, good start to the year, and thanks for watching. There's my driveway. There's the cows across the road. Alrighty, bye guys.